Okay, welcome back to another edition of Herb Infused Cooking Oils and how to make our cooking easier. Today we're going to go ahead and make bread, which sounds very complicated to a lot of people, but it's actually pretty simple. If you have the right equipment, it's almost no work at all. So that's what we're going to do, and we're actually going to incorporate our cooking oils. This is the Italian blend. You could also use the Caliente or the Mexican blend if you wanted, something like that. If you want to be really creative, you can use the Thai curry or the Tomate Vin Blanc. But we're going to keep it simple and use Italian. So what we need to make our bread, the first thing we need to do is make our yeast slurry. Don't know the proper word. And what I like to do to kind of speed things up with the whole yeast rising thing, I like to warm my pot up with hot water, my mixing bowl up with hot water. And I'll just speed things along a little bit, make it easier. And we will just go ahead and do this. And I'm not bothering to set my timer this time because most of the time making the bread, it's a lot of waiting. So we're not even counting that, so the whole timer thing isn't going to work very well. So we're going to warm up that bowl a little bit. And what we're going to shoot for is 2 cups of water. This is one of the few things I bother measuring because it matters. So we're wanting 2 cups of water, kind of warm, not enough to burn your finger, just comfortable. So we got 2 cups of water, and we're going to put in some salt. Salt I don't measure. I just kind of, it looks like a lot, okay, but it's going to make 2 loaves of bread. So salt. And yeast. This is a bread machine yeast, which just instant yeast is good, rapid rise, something like that. We're going to put a tablespoon, a little bit rounded if you want it fluffier, and to rise faster too. Sugar. We need to feed our yeast. If you don't put any sugar, yeast ain't going to grow because it's not for it to feed on. Feeds a little bit on salt too, I think, but so measuring wise, no. Not much. I'd say that was about maybe 2 tablespoons. You can measure if you want, but in mine, I like sunflower seeds. So how much sunflower seeds you put in really depends on how much you like sunflower seeds. You can use poppy seeds, anything else, nuts, anything else you want to put in your bread. Oil. The olive oil would be nice. It's more expensive. I make bread twice a week almost. I never buy store-bought bread because this is just too easy. Measure this out because it's kind of important how much you put in. So in this case, we're going to put 1/3 of a cup, which again sounds like a lot, but you're making 2 loaves of bread. So you got your oil in there, and we're trying to be good eaters, so we're going to use some wheat flour. So let's say we put about 4 cups of flour to make 2 loaves of bread. So we'll do 25% whole wheat. You never use complete whole wheat flour because it'll be a brick. So 1 cup. We're going to measure out 1 cup. I scrape along the side to get a pretty good measuring. Flattens it out. In there. Get that out of the way. Now we need 3 more cups. So we're going to put 3 cups of flour. Let me bring it up here so you can see what I'm doing. Someday I'm going to buy a nice container for my flour, but for now, this is what I got. So we're going to have 1. Now again, this is, I'm not exact, I can use a knife. If you want to be really exact about it, we'll use the back of a knife, scrape it off, that's 3. Scrape it off, and that's 4. What'll happen too though, if you're not exact, it doesn't matter anyway, so you can always add more flour, but you can't really take flour out, and bread is really awkward when you try to add more water in. Nice when you want to add more. Okay. So we're going to put this, if you have a KitchenAid, for God's sake, get a, if you have nothing else besides your pots and pans, get a KitchenAid. We're going to be cooking a lot with a KitchenAid. chopping bacon and doing all kinds of stuff. Okay, so we have the wire, we have the paddle, and we have our dough hook, which is what we're going to use. So start it up kind of low. That way it's not throwing flour all over the kitchen. That's just messy. One thing I've learned is not to walk away from your mixer when it's going. Because if it's a little off balance and such, it's going to want to walk off the counter. And I've already had mine hit the floor. Had to buy new castings to redo it. You don't want to go there. So we're going to get this good and blended. And it's going to take a minute. And I don't want to waste your time watching it go around, watching paint dry. Wheat flour tends to soak up a lot more moisture than just white flour does. My white flour comes from Sam's Wholesale, Sam's Club, because I can get a 25-pound bag for about $8. And since I cook bread every week or more, I also make bagels and I make pizza dough, so I go through a lot of flour. And for me to buy like a 5-pound bag of flour is just costs almost the same as a 25-pound bag. So spend a lot more money. Buy it directly from the store. My yeast, ditto. I try to get from Sam's because I can get 2 big bags of it for the cost of 2 small ones of these. Now this, and let it go a little bit longer. Show you. This is still pretty wet. Okay, so we want it to be quite a bit drier than that. You want to be careful not to dry your dough, and one way to know you've got too much in there, which is kind of after the fact, is that it's really making your mixer work too hard. Okay, dough is really hard to make. It's very hard on the motor. So, and this is too wet yet, so I'm going to add more flour. Drop that back down. And you kind of want to add less than you think you need because you don't want to add too much. Again, it's much harder to get the dough wetter than it is to get it drier. So let's see if we can get the consistency. You don't have to be patient with the mixing, simply because it takes a while for it to get the consistency. It takes a while for all the flour to soak up that liquid. Let's give it a good whip. And we'll take a look at it and see if we're about right with our water to flour ratio. The wheat does soak up a lot of moisture. It also tends to be a little stickier than white. So although this does still look a little on the sticky side, it really should be kind of pulling away from the sides a little bit, making more of a good round ball. So I'm going to not put much more flour in this dough because again the wheat's a little bit stickier. It tends to just make more gluten or something. So I'm going to let this mix. You should let it beat it up for, I don't know, a good another 2 minutes or so. So I'll put it back on here. Okay. So I let this beat for a little bit longer. Gravity sucks. So I let this go for a little bit longer and you can see how much cleaner the bowl is. So I mean, you're always going to have that little bit there, but you can see how much cleaner it is here. It's pulled away from the side and it's made a little bit better of a ball. So I'm going to leave this on the mixer because we're still going to need to beat this again. What we're going to do is we're going to let this sit for a while. Just put a towel over it to keep it keep a little bit of the warmth in, and we don't want the dough to get a dry crust on it. So we are going to cover it up and we're going to let it sit and rise. Just about 15 minutes. Check it, and it should have doubled in size. It's going to fill up like to 3/4 point of that bowl or something. But you'll be able to see, you can stick your finger in it and it'll not push back. If it pushed back, your dough's probably got too much flour in it. Unless you're doing pizza dough or bagel dough. Those are very dense doughs. So we're going to let that sit for about 15 or 20 minutes, let it double in size, and we'll come back to it. Okay, we're ready to check our dough. It's been rising for about 15 minutes. Take our little cover off, and we're looking good. This is what it should be looking like, all nice and fluffy and stuff. So we're going to take that off of here. We let it rise this time, and then we're going to let it rise a little bit more once we get it in our pans. So now we need to scrape it off. Get a little bit out of the bowl. We're pretty good. Drop it off here. We're going to squish all that air out and knead it down. It's going to outgas a little squeaky like. We just add flour as we need it to keep it from sticking. We don't want to add too much. We don't want to dry it out. Now if you add, the more flour you add, the stiffer your bread's going to be, the drier your bread's going to be. Keeping it from being dry is one reason we put oil in it. Main reason we put oil in it. And if the more water you put, the less flour you put, the more it's going to be like a batter bread, which is what my husband and I call bunny bread. And it's that real kind of Wonder Bread thing where you can make little marbles out of it. But we like bakery bread, so we add a little bit more flour. And with the wheat in here, it's a little healthier too. So let's make it a real pretty little ball. Keep it from sticking. What we're going to do is we're making 2 loaves out of this. You can make 3 small ones or 2 good sized ones. So we're going to split that in half. Stick it on the flour so it doesn't stick to the board. Okay, we're just going to mush that up a little bit. There's that one ready to go. Need just a little bit more, just to get our shape. We get a nice smooth surface. Pop that in there. Bread pan. So we're going to prep our bread pans. We're going to spray them just so they don't stick. Sticking is really annoying. Give it a decent coating. So now what we're going to do, I'll do this so you can see what the heck I'm doing. I'm going to smack it around a little bit, show it who's boss. I usually fold in the ends, make sure your hands are flat. And I'll tuck it around, and roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it. Because we want it to be a little bit long, so it fills the whole pan, just like that. We want to fill that pan. Okay, let's do our other one. Now, they don't look perfect, doesn't matter. They're going to rise, they're going to fill that pan. So if the ends aren't perfect, doesn't matter. It's going to rise and tuck them in. Get them to the right size and shape. Don't want to pack them down too hard because it's just not nice. Okay, so what we want to do is we want them to come out nice and brown. 2 ways to get them nice and brown. Almost 3. You can put water on them. The water gives them makes them a little bit crispy, kind of like Italian bread. If you just want to get a nice bakery looking finish on them, just get them brown. You can use melted butter. That'll get them really dark brown. Or what I prefer to do is I use yolk. Little egg yolk, beat it up. Chia seeds or poppy seeds or whichever seeds you prefer. But I'm using sesame seeds. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them on now. One thing you can do too, especially when I make a jalapeno bread, I'll top it off with some cheddar cheese and let that bake up. And that gets dark all on its own, so you don't necessarily need egg yolk or anything else because you're going to coat it in cheese. And if you want to, even with this, since we're going to put a little of that too, but since we are making a little bit of Italian, we can go ahead and put a little Parmesan cheese, except I'm out. So no Parmesan cheese this time. All right, so what I want to do, get one of my sharper knives, and I want to make a nice slice right down the middle because I want this to have that little opening on the top, and that opening also allows it to spread more. It allows it to rise a little bit more, gives it room to grow. So we're just going to give a little slice on the top. Don't have to go real deep, but a very sharp knife helps. So you can already see it kind of splitting, making room. And what we're going to do now is we're going to pour a little bit of our Italian oil. We're going to get that flavor in there. Shameless promotion. Herb infused cooking oil. This is our Italian blend. It's got, amongst other things, garlic, oregano, salt, pepper, marjoram. It's got some basil in there. It's good stuff. You can cook it with chicken. I like using it on a salad. I put craisins and reduced balsamic, and it makes it really, really good. So we're just going to pour some of this in here. And what's going to happen is this is cooking. Even if it's rising, the flavor is going to soak in. So I'm going to show you this a little bit. I don't want it to all pour out. So if we can see that. Okay. So what we need to do now is we need to cover this again so the dough doesn't dry out. Nothing nasty over some dried out old dough. So we're just going to cover that. Keep that air, the dry air. It's winter time. Air's really dry around here. And we're going to let that sit for another 15, maybe 20 minutes. We want it again to double in size before we throw in the oven. I would say in about 10 minutes, if you don't already have your oven preheating, go ahead and preheat it to 375. Since these are darker pans, these are dark colored pans, I wouldn't preheat it above that. Dark pans tend to cook it faster and make it browner. If you have silver pans, you can cook it closer to 400 degrees. It'll be good. But we're going to leave it at 375. It's just to be safe. I have a convection oven, so it rises really nice. It keeps the heat all even in the oven. You know, you can bake it with it. It's good too. Bacon's good. It does all over the oven. Just don't move the air around. Anyway, okay, we're going to come back in about 15 minutes. Again, this is taking longer, but a lot of it's downtime. A lot of it's just sitting, going, doing something else. It just, you know, depends. So we got our bread in there. It's ready to go, all risen. Last step is cooking it. We'll let it go for about 26 minutes, and we'll check on it, and we'll be back to see how it looks. All right, drum roll, please. Timer's gone off. 26 minutes, and we have bread. Bring them out. Yeah, what I want to do is show you what it looks like. So I'm going to take this puppy. We're going to flip it out. See how nice and brown it is. Not too hard, not too firm. The old handy dandy bread knife. And we have some beautiful whole wheat bread. You can't see the steam, can you? But I don't think anything tastes good unless you butter it. Now, I'm not real big on whole wheat bread. Since this is only 25%, I can live with it. So there we go. That's bread. When you take it out, it's a good idea to cover it when you let it cool so it doesn't dry out. You don't want all that good moisture to escape. So, let's pop this one out. And we will just cover that and let it cool that way. Now normally when I store my bread, after it cools sufficiently and all that moisture is locked in there, I put it in a Ziploc bag, leave it open for a little bit, at least for a day or so, a little bit of air in there so that it doesn't collect a whole lot of moisture and get moldy. That's just gross. Since I have 2 loaves, I can take 1 loaf, bag it up tight, throw it in the freezer. So when I'm ready for it, I just pull it out and it's like it just came out of the oven. Today it was sponsored by Herb Infused Oil, our Italian blend. Guaranteed to make everything taste awesome. tried this, you can visit our website. It's urbanfusedoil.com. It's down there somewhere. All natural ingredients, nothing weird. Make everything taste really good. Check it out on our website. We have recipes too to kind of guide you along, give you an idea what to do with it. Of course, all our videos we're going to keep showing you how to cook with it in all kinds of different ways, different meats, seafood, everything, salads, what have you. Check us out. Have a great day. Happy cooking, and we will see you next time around.